Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Punachari Yamuna Tira Punachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, everybody. As usual, today we will first read from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and after that we will recite and discuss.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. So, I'm reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. For that, I'm sharing my screen. Just give me a sec. Okay. So I'm reading from Prabhupada Lilamrita. The loft was a 4-flight walk-up, and the only entrance, usually heavy bolted, was a door in the rear at the west end. From the outside, the door opened into a hallway, lit only by a red exit light over the door. The hallway led to the right a few steps and into the open area. If a guest entered during Kirtana or a lecture, he would see the Swami about 30 feet from the entrance, seated on his dais. On the other evenings, the whole loft would be dark, but for the glow of the red exit light in the little hallway and a soft illumination radiating from the other side of the partition where Prabhupada was working. Prabhupada lived on the Bowery, sitting under a small light, while hundreds of derelicts also sat under hundreds of naked lights on the same city block. He had no more fixed income than the derelicts, nor any greater security of a fixed income. Yet his consciousness was different. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam into English, speaking to the world through his Bhakti Vedanta purports. His duty, whether on the 14th floor of a riverside drive apartment building or in the corner of a Bowery loft, was to establish Krishna consciousness as a prime necessity for all humanity. He went on with his translating and with his constant vision of Krishna temple in New York City. Because his consciousness was absorbed in Krishna's universal mission, he did not depend on his surroundings for shelter. Home for him was not a matter of bricks and woods, but of taking shelter of Krishna in every circumstances. Even as Prabhupada had said to his friends uptown, everywhere is my home, whereas without Krishna's shelter, the whole world would be a desolate place. Often he would refer to scriptural statements that people live in three different modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Life in the forest is in the mode of goodness, life in the city is passion, and life in the degraded place, like a liquor shop, a brothel, or the Bowery, is in the mode of ignorance. But to live in a temple of Vishnu or to live in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, which is transcendental to all three material modes. And the Bowery left where Prabhupada was holding the meetings and performing Kirtana was also transcendental. When he was behind the partition, working in his corner before the open pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, the room was as good as his room back at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. So I'm stopping here, sharing, and also sharing. And today we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, and verse 54. And the heading of this canto is The Creation of the Fourth Order, and the heading of the chapter, Chanting of the Song by Lord Shiva, or the Rudra-Gita. I'm just sharing the screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Uttamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Srinnatam Shakata Krishna Punna Savana Krishna Hridiyantani Vidhunoti Shatam Nashto Prayesho Abhodreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtiki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So I'm just sharing the screen. So can everybody see the screen?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it's a wrong canto.
I'm just changing. Sorry.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's all right now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Bhavan bhaktimata labhyo durlabho sarvo dehina sharajyasrapi amivato ekantena atma vidgati. Bhavan bhaktimata labhyo durlabho sarvo dehinam sharajyasrapi abhimato ekantena atmana vidgati. Bhavan bhaktimata labhyo durlabho sarvo dehinam Sharajyasyapi abhimata ekantena atma vidgatihi. So, do anybody wants to recite?
Hare Krishna, I will go first. Bhavan bhukti mata labhyo durlabha sarvadehinam swarajya shapya vimata ekante natma vidgatihi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
I am
Krishna
also
Mataji.
trying.
Yes, please.
भवान् भुक्तिमता लभ्यो दुर्लभ सर्वदेहिनां स्वराज्यस्यापि अभिमत एकात्तेनात्मविद्गतिः. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Anybody
Krishna.
else? Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, please.
भवान् भक्तिमता लभ्यो दुर्लभा सर्वदेहिनां स्वराज्यस्याप्याभिमत एकान्ते आत्मविद्गति.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Anyone else wants to do that? Okay, the synonyms. Can anybody wants to read? Please.
Yes, Prabhu, I can try. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Synonyms. Bhavan, your grace, Bhakti Mata, by the devotee, Labhaya, obtainable, Durlabha, very difficult to be obtained, Sharvadehinam, of all other living entities, Swarajasya, of the King of Heaven, Api, even, Abhimataha, the ultimate goal, Ekantena, by oneness, Atmavit, of the self-realized Gatihi, the ultimate destination. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. And can anyone wants to read the
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. My dear Lord, the King in charge of the heavenly kingdom is also desirous of obtaining the ultimate goal of life, devotional service. Similarly, you are the ultimate destination of those who identify themselves with you, Aham Brahmasi. However, it is very difficult for them to attain you, whereas a devotee can very easily attain your Lordship. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you very much, Mataji. And anyone wants to read out the purport, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji, please.
As stated in Brahma Samhita, Vedeshu Dullabham Adullabham Atma Bhakto, this indicates that it's very difficult for one to attain the ultimate goal of life and reach the supreme destination, Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, simply by studying Vedanta philosophy or Vedic literature. However, this highest perfectional stage can be attained by the devotees very easily. That is the meaning of Vedeshu Dullabham Adullabham Atma Bhakto. The same point is confirmed by Lord Shiva in this verse. The Lord is very difficult for the karma yogis, jnana yogis, and dhyana yogis to attain. Those who are bhakti yogis, however, have no difficulty at all. In the word Swarjasya, Svarva refers to Sarva Loka, the heavenly planet, and Swarjaya refers to the ruler of the heavenly planet, Indra. Generally, karmis desire elevation to heavenly planets, but King Indra desires to become perfect in Bhakti Yoga. Those who identify themselves as Aham Brahmasmi, I'm the Supreme Brahman, one with the Absolute Truth, also ultimately desire to attain perfect liberation in the Vaikuntha planets or Goloka Vrindavan. In Bhagavad Gita 18:55, it is said, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yes chasmi tatvatha tato mam tatvato nyatva vishvati tadan natadam. One who can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such a devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Thus, if one desires to enter into the spiritual world, he must try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Simply by practicing Bhakti Yoga, one can understand the Supreme Lord in truth. But without such understanding, one cannot enter the spiritual kingdom. One may be elevated to the heavenly planets or may realize himself as Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. But that is not the end of realization. One must realize the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Bhakti Yoga. Then real perfection of life is attained.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So I'm Om Ajnanotimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupo Kadamahyam Dadati Isha Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahajana Raghunathan Nitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadhutam Purijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shavanulalita Sri Vishakam Nitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanto Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarupyasya Kripa Sindhubhyo Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale, Prabhupada Sri Shubhushamini Sada, Danya Shri Shubhagaya, Sarva Jiva Pipabdaya, Guru Shiksha Sadachara, Palapaya Stute. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Dharini Namo Mahavadannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namo Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramanam Sadguru Dina Taranam. Hare Krishna, everybody. So welcome to you all in this morning class of Srimad Bhagavatam. Although I am not qualified, but I am doing this service as I have been instructed to undertake this service. And it is an opportunity for me to purify myself. So I beg you all the devotees here, for your mercy to please bless me so that I can properly glorify the Supreme Lord Krishna devotees. So now a brief background of this topic. And we all know that when all the Prachetas or the 10 sons of Prachin Bodhi, they very seriously accepted the words of their father, and they took it in their heart and soul, and keeping these words on their heads, they went towards the west to execute Father's orders, to meditation. And while traveling, they came across a great reservoir of water, or a lake, and it was said that the lake seemed almost as big as an ocean. And when they came near it, they were captivated by the beauty of the lake. There is festive-like situation in the surroundings, and the orderly musical sounds was there. They saw the Lord Shiva and coming out from the water with his associates. And as soon as the Prachetas saw the Lord Shiva, they immediately offered their obeisances in great amazement, and they fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Lord Shiva became very pleased with Prachetas, and he blessed them. And Lord Shiva is now praying to the Supreme Lord. And this is what is known as Rudrogit. And the present verse is a part of one of such prayers. Let us see what Lord Shiva is conveying in this message. So for that, I'm just reading the verse once again. It is said in the verse, in the first, Bhavan Bhuktimata Labho Durlabho Sarvo Dehinam Sharajya Shopi Abhimotoha Ekantena Atma Vedgati. That means the Lord, Bhuktimata Labho, the Lord is obtainable by devotional service. Durlabho Sarvo Dehinam, very difficult for other living entities. That means only by devotional service the Lord is obtainable, and for others it is very difficult to obtain. And the second part of it says that even the heavenly king Indra wants to get him as his ultimate goal, and similarly he is also the destination of those. He's telling of the Mayavadis or the Brahmavadis, who think themselves as same as the Lord, or the Aham Brahmashmi, they consider themselves as equal to Supreme Lord. They think that by Maya they are covered, and once they are free from the Maya, they become similar to the Supreme Lord. So anyway, for them also, the Lord is the supreme goal or the destination. Now let us think over the verse, and let us discuss some of the points inside it. In this material world, everybody, every living entity wants to get rid of the miseries and tries to be happy. And this is because the Vedanta Sutra also, it is said that individual spirit soul or the Atma within our body is by its very nature is happy. And so that is why everyone wants to be happy and tries to get rid of the material miseries. But the Jivatma, or when it is covered in a material body, then it becomes bound by the material contamination. And whatever way they tries, they cannot get rid of this happiness the way they think they will get it. And in this material world, there are two types of tendencies. One is called sense enjoyment, the bhoga or the sense enjoyment, and tyaga or the renunciation of this material world. First of all, every living being in general, except a few exceptional cases, wants to enjoy this sense enjoyment and wants to be happy in that way. And when one reaches the topmost position of material opulence, he gets frustrated because he realizes that by mere sense enjoyment, he cannot become happy, or he has to live up for some reason, sense enjoyment, and he tries to renounce at that time. This tendency is natural. This is the natural tendency, in other words. And when he tries renunciation, I give an example. If someone wants to enjoy by taste of a tongue, by good tasty foods, if he is supplied with enormous amount, at one time he will say, no, I don't want, I have enough. That means he has reached at this time of renunciation. He can renounce what is being offered to him. But that is a very temporary situation. Again, after some time, he again feel thirsty, he becomes hungry, and again wants to enjoy this food. So in this way, this is a natural, this is a situation in the material world that he wants to enjoy, and at some point when it is fulfilled, or when he reaches the highest peak of it, he wants to renounce and come back again. So with proper, of course, even it requires proper guidance how to renounce. That is a different, we'll discuss it later. And so one cannot be happy by mere sense enjoyment, that we have seen, because that is not our natural condition. That's why one cannot, but also one shifts like a pendulum, and between bhoga and tyaga, that means enjoyment and then renunciation. In this way, it goes on. And as I have told, it is not the natural condition of a material person to be happy in this way, because our constitutional position is different. That's why you cannot be happy permanently in this way. One of the reasons we can say for that, because if in this material world, when we came to this material world, nothing belonged to us, or we came without anything, in a naked way we came. And when we go away, we have to leave behind everything what we have caught in this material world. In other words, we come and go without anything. So whatever we have acquired inside, in the meantime, that we consider as our own, and we try to enjoy it, and want to deprive others also sometimes. So that is why we have not a legitimate, or in a real way, we don't have a legitimate right to claim as our own. So that's why the natural condition is that we cannot enjoy proper. By enjoyment, we cannot be happy. In a similar way, renunciation in Isha Upanishad, in the first verse of Isha Varshomidam Sarvam, it says that everything belongs to the Lord. So whatever we are considering as ourselves, while we are in this material world, it doesn't really belong to us. It belongs to the Lord. And that's why when we say that we are enjoying what is given by the Lord. And when we see of renunciation, it is a renunciation of the thing which which really doesn't belong to us. So it can, to put in another way, Bhogo is, when one wants to enjoy, Bhogo is nothing but a thievery, enjoying with others' property. And Tyaga means renunciation of what? Which never belonged to us. In other words, it's a form of lunacy, that neither Bhoga and Tyaga, what we are doing in this material, is not really meaningful. And the happiness of, and the chief aim of life is to get rid of these miseries and to become real happiness. To enjoy real happiness is the goal of life. And there's real happiness of the what we can get in this material world, how we can get it, that is provided through our proper Vedic knowledge. And it is said that by following the Vedas, by conducting our life in a religious way or dharmic life, we can become happy. And it is told, therefore, that Veda pranihito dharma, the religious principles are the principles enacted in the Vedic literature. By following the Vedic literature, we can become happy. But again, Vedic literature also contains ritualistic ceremonies, and they are not transcendental. In other words, that are not spiritual. In other words, so they are meant to gradually change the society, or in other words, to retain the peace and order in the materialistic person and in the material world. So we have to be careful, even to taking the lesson, to take the teachings of the Vedas also. We cannot take them. We must have to go beyond what the Veda is really trying to comes, because the purpose of the Vedas is to know the God and ultimately having our relationship with Him and find out what is our duty from there. And that's why in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna was telling to Arjuna that you have to become free from the three modes of material nature, and in this way you can become. That is the purpose of religious goal. And Nisto Yuno Bhavarjuna, that is in 245, I think it is mentioned. And so in this transcendental process literature, which we can achieve by there are three kinds. The transcendentalist, or the process of going to the transcendental life, there are three different kinds of transcendental processes described in Vedic literature. And by understanding it, we can achieve and approach the Supreme Lord. The process are called, the process are like that. It is called, three processes are there, three processes to go to the Lord. And one is called knowledge, or the Jnana Yoga, and the process of meditation, or the mystic yoga, and the process of devotional service, or bhakti yoga. These three classes of transcendentalists, they are called, the first one who wants to go with knowledge, but they are called Gyanis, or the impersonalist, and the yogis. In Sanskrit name is yogis, and the English name is meditators, and the bhaktas, or the devotees. So these are the three categories of person who wants to know the ultimate, the absolute truth. Now, following these three processes, only one can realize the absolute truth. And this absolute truth, these three types of people, they follow the Vedic knowledge and tries to get the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. And because by knowing the Supreme Lord, and knowing our duty, from the Vedas, we can perform our duty and become really happy. When we follow the knowledge, those who are following the process of knowledge to realize the Lord, they realize him as impersonal Brahman, or the or the eternity of the Lord. That means Lord is present everywhere, in any place, anytime. He was existing in the past, he is existing in the present, in the future. When everything goes into oblivion, he will also remain there. And the Paramatma, those who are yogis or the Ashtanga yogis, they realize him as a localized super soul. The Lord is present in everyone's heart and in a localized way. And the purpose of the yogis or the Ashtanga yogis, they try to realize the Lord inside our heart and follow the devote. And for the devotees who we follow, or we are talking about Krishna conscious people also, we realize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the personal aspect of the Lord, and that is Sri Krishna. And although there is Brahman, and the Brahman, Paramatma, and Krishna are no different according to that, but they only give different aspects of the Lord's feature. So now let us consider how from one, as is stated in the verse, the bhakta is it is easily available for the devotees and not for the others. And we are trying to find out why in the spiritual realization, the realization of the personal aspect of the Lord, or the Bhagavan aspect, is the supreme. We will just discuss about that. And normally the Gyanis or the philosophers, intellectual, they are the thinkers. They tries to reflect upon the things around them. They reflect, they speculate, and by logic, sometimes by institution and by discourse, and by exploring and evaluating their ideas, they try to understand what is the ultimate of the absolute. But the problem is that they can spend lifetimes in speculation, questioning and questioning, and still they will hardly be able to know the Lord. But when they start reading, I'm talking about the materialistic people, material knowledge and discussion, they will never be able to understand the God. But when even these people start reading the Vedas, Vedic literature, and they get the guidance from the path of real knowledge, and it gives them the thoughts and realization which or the previous sages who have been through the territory, who has known the Supreme Lord, or went through that territory before. They gives their knowledge, and in this way they are able to do from speculation they come to the real knowledge. And when they were wandering previously everywhere, but they comes and seeks to find about the real knowledge. And in this way, through the path of Vedic knowledge, one comes, and these Gyanis come to understand that he is the spark of pure consciousness above the body and above even the mind, and see that the body and mind, and beyond the body and mind. Well, as an example, when he tells his finger to scratch something or in his body, he can direct it thought, but they can go one subject to another, and one mind to mind, and distinct from inner identity. He can differentiate between the inner beings and his material and his body. And this understanding is called, that means there is something inside the body, there is something energizing the body. That concept, and that is spirit is inside. That understanding gives them the concept of self-realization, which is called self-realization. But that is only they have realized that there is a spark. He is a spark of the, and inside his body there is a spark which is activating the things. That is the process of first step of realization. And when he makes further introspection, he comes to understand his own consciousness, but he finds that there are others also surrounding him, which are also conscious. They have also spiritual existence, and then he understands that his existence is not enough. And even though he knows that his essential identity is not himself and something inside him, the other living beings too are also there. So he wants to know how is how his relationship with them, and how and who is controlling them. In this way, in such distinction, he can find out that there is something else controlling them also, both of them, either himself and other living beings also. And where this things comes from, then he understands there is a supreme controller who does that. And by considering his own identity, individual consciousness, and the consciousness of other persons, he can understand there is a person who is absolutely conscious. And in this way, he enters the realm of bhakti, or he knows there is a personal spiritual dealings he has to do with the absolute. And in this way, the bhakti, or the highest stage of spiritual realization, one does. That means he knows himself, he knows our living entities, and he knows there is a controller, and he knows what is his duty to the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Controller. And that is the way that he can gradually realizes from Gyanis to yogis, and after that he realizes the personal aspect of the Supreme Lord, and that is the highest realization of self-realization, actually the highest stage of self-realization. Now that this is the bhakti is the highest stage of self-realization. It is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita in 647. Arjuna was told by Lord Sri Krishna that yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana sraddhavan bhajate yoma shome yukta tamamata. He's telling in the English translation Prabhupada is made is that of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me and thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, is the highest of all, and that is my opinion. Now, what we have just discussed a bit more in a repetition of that in light of this verse, Prabhupada has told that the culmination of all kind of yoga practice lies in bhakti yoga. Why? All other yogas are the means to come to the point of, as we have told, bhakti is the ultimate stage. So yoga actually means bhakti yoga, because any yoga means connecting with the Supreme Lord. And so jnana yogis, karma yogis, and then they become jnana yogi, and then ashtanga yogis, and then bhakti yogis. How they come to that stage, we are just explaining that again. The karma yoga without fruitive, from the beginning of the karma yoga at the end of the bhakti yoga, there's a long way of realization, as I have told. And karma yoga without fruitive result is the beginning of the path. So when normally a fruitive worker who doesn't understand, he wants to enjoy the results of his activities, and in this way he becomes bound with the results of his action. But that is by detachment from that results, he becomes a karma yogi, and from karma yogi he comes to gradually to jnana yogi. Karma yogi increases the knowledge and renunciation, and at this stage he is called a jnana yogi. That is, karma yogi becomes a jnana yogi. And when jnana yogi increases his meditation on the super soul of different physical process, and the mind is on him, he is called ashtanga yogi. And when one surpasses the ashtanga yoga and comes to the process of Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is called bhakti yoga, or the culmination. That's the final stage. And factually, bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal, as we have repeatedly, Prabhupada has told it different everywhere, that bhakti yogi is the ultimate one who has understood these three processes. And one who is a bhakti yogi, he knows what is the ashtanga. So one stops, one doesn't advance. He never advances, he remains in karma yogi. But one who advances, after that he becomes jnana yogi. And after that, he advances further, he becomes Dhana Yogi or the Ashtanga Yogi, and ultimately he becomes Bhakti Yogi or Bhakti Yoga, and that is the ultimate of all spiritual knowledge. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious, or in other words, knowing the personal aspect of the Supreme Lord and engage in the service of the Lord, he becomes perfect. He reaches the highest stage, and that is the culmination of spiritual knowledge. And it's a great fortune that when one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga, according to the Vedic knowledge, and he can understand the personal aspect of the Lord. And this is the aspect, and it is told in this verse that when a person becomes a Bhakti Yogi, only by devotional process he can realize the Lord. And it is mentioned in verse in Brahma Samhita, verse 533. Achyutam advaitam anadi anantarupam addam purana purusham nava yauvanam cha vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto govindam adi purusham tamaham mayam. That means it is telling that only by devotees, and durlabam atma bhakto means Lord's devotees can get him easily, but adurlabam atma bhakta, but it's difficult for other who are not devotees. In a similar way, it is told in Bhagavad Gita in 1851 that Bhakta Mam Abhijanat, Bhakta Mam Abhijavan Ashtatmi Taptato. In this way, the devotees can learn the devotees can only learn about the Supreme Lord, and no other person can do it that way as the devotees can. And now another aspect that is discussed in the verse is that the Supreme the demigods or the devatas, they also aspire to become a devotee of the Lord, because they know what is the ultimate goal of human life, that is to go back to the supreme abode of the Supreme Lord, and to be free from this material cycle of birth and death. And so we'll discuss on this point now about why the devotees also want to become devotees of the Lord and get human life. There is a misconception. I mean, for those who are worshippers of the demigods in our country and all, in India in particular, and also in other places, there is a tendency to worship the demigods and considering they will give them relief from their sufferings they are undergoing in this material world. But that is not the correct position, because we know that it is not. We'll just discuss on this point only. First of all, the devotas we must remember that they are like us, have got material bodies. The bodies of the demigods are also material, and they have to die at the end of a particular manvantara. Maybe it is a very long time. As you know, each manu reigns over a period of a manvantara, or each lasting for 71 Chaturjuga, 14 manus. In a day of Brahma, there are 14 manus, or a day of Brahma is called one kalpo. So 4 Chaturjugas and 71 Chaturjugas makes one manvantara. It is in the material, in our earthly calculation, it is about 306.72 million years. So that may be the life of a devata. But again, after the end of the time, they will die. And and after that, they have to take another material body again. So they may be at this moment in a higher planets and where they are enjoying, but they are not free from the repeated birth and death that takes place in this material world. Their planets are also subject to destruction, and so they have to take birth again. So they are also in the cycle of birth and death, and at one time very higher planets, and maybe in another life in a lower planet. In this way, they are within the circle of birth and death repeatedly. So the devatas, because they are devotees of the Lord, they know that they do not with their bodies, although they are at the moment they are enjoying very higher position and higher sense of enjoyment because of the situation they have a great opportunity to enjoy at that moment. But that enjoyment itself is an impediment for them to take devotional service, which a human being can undertake in this material world. And to understand this point between human beings and what is that, we are just trying to compare it. From the devota's point of view, or what they are thinking is that they are thinking that it is mentioned in Canto 5 and chapter 19 in Srimad Bhagavatam, and verses from 21 to 28. It is very clearly written. And some of the features I am just stating, that it provides that they are thinking, the demigods are thinking that since the human form of life, I'm telling of 5.9.21, since the human form of life is the sublime position for spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. They speak in this way. How wonderful it is for this human being. They're telling of us that human beings to have been born in the land of Bharatvarsha, they must have been executed pious acts, austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of Himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? The demigods can only aspire to achieve human births in Bharatvarsha to execute devotional service, but the human beings are already engaged in that. You see that they are wanting to come to this material world and make devotional service, so that after the end of this life they can go back to the Supreme Lord. The life in the devatas or in Shargaloko is very, very long, so they have to remain there for a long time, and they have no opportunity during this time to come back to go to the supreme abode of the Lord. But the people in this, particularly in this Kali Yuga, they are fortunate that if we are very long, we have got 100 years. So within that year, we have this very small 100 years. If we are successful in our devotional service and we are sincere, we can go back to the abode of the Supreme Lord easily. But they cannot. They have to remain there for millions and millions of years. But again, after that, they have to come here, and if they can do it successfully, they will go back like us to the abode of the Lord. So they are lamenting that they cannot get it, this opportunity, what we are getting. And another thing, in a similar way, any other planets, in the higher planets, there is no doubt they have got better sense, they have got better opportunities and better sense of enjoyment. But ultimately, they are subject to destruction, and at that time they have to take another life again. So they are not free from the cycle of birth and death. And in this way, in the earthly planet, they are what we have the opportunity have. In fact, in devotional service, there is a great joy, and what a devotee enjoys while serving the Supreme Personality of God, the devotees do not get that opportunity. An intelligent person, therefore, even in the topmost planetary system, likes to come to the earthly planet, particularly where this Varnashram system is there, and there is an opportunity for them to go back to the Godhead very quickly. And in this age of Kali Yuga, another great opportunity is that, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told, that by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that is the austerity, and that is the yajna we have to perform, Nam Sankirtan yajna. And only by short life engaging in Bhakti Yoga, in Krishna consciousness, by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and being perfect in that, we can we are qualified to go back to the spiritual world, and that is the highest goal for any living being. And so any intelligent, or in other words, all the demigods who are intelligent enough to understand that what they have to do, because they know the highest goal of a living entity is to go back to the Godhead, and that is why they are very keen, or they are very interested to come to this to get this human form of life, and in this way they can go back to the Godhead. And in fact, this Earth planet, particularly in India, we can easily cultivate Krishna consciousness easily. And however, as a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada has spread the message, the process of Bhakti Yoga all over the globe now, and the whole planet is now an extension of the opportunities found in India and or in Bharatvarsha, and the whole planet of Earth is now is possible for every people in this material world, in this earthly planet, to engage in the devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a pure devotee, and in this way they can go back to the Godhead. That is why, as stated in the verse, that Sharajya Shapi Avimotoho, that means the king in charge of the heavenly planet is also desirous of obtaining the ultimate goal of life, that is devotional service. So with that, I'm closing my comment class, and if anybody has any comments, any realization, or any points to point out, any limitations, any mistakes I might have committed, I'm ready to hear from all of you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, nice class. You nicely described about the Bhoga Tyaga, which is situation of material world. And we cannot attain that ultimate destination with Bhoga Tyaga because it is temporary. We need to understand our constitutional position and how to get rid out the miseries. We have to follow the religious principles and following the Vedic culture, keeping Krishna in the center. And you nicely described out the three transcendentalists and their process, and Bhakti Yogi is the supreme. And you also discuss about the self-realization. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and that our highest stage of self-realization is the Bhakti, become a Bhakta. That regarding demigods, they are having also material body. I have one question.
Yes.
That demigod, if they do the bhakti, can they go to the Godhead, to the Golaka? From
Yes,
there?
yes, they can, Mataji, but the problem is that for them, the problem, I mean, the obstacle for them is that they have got a very long life they have to spend there. And the body they have got is not a sadhan body, or that is not meant for making devotional service. That is their problem. If they overcome it, gradually they can do that. But the body they have got is not favorable for devotional service, which here. That's why they want to become a devotee.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. And what about the Narada's position? Is just confusing in my mind. Is he demigod, or we know he's the incarnation of Lord Krishna? So how we can say, how we can describe him? We know he is Rajarshi, he is the
Devorshi.
Devorshi, yeah, Devorshi.
Yes,
Narad,
Devorshi.
yeah.
But he is a Devo at the same time. He has got he is what I will say, he is endowed with the special potency from the Lord. That's why he is capable. He is a bhakta at the same time, and he is a devota at the same time. That is a special mercy of the Lord, and by which he can convert. And as we see from the life of Narad Muni, that he was able to convert a lot of so-called fallen people,
Fallen souls, yeah.
from fallen from to a highest level of highest yogi. So he is endowed with a special power that is an exceptional power. But in general, the devotees, as you see, and also the devotees are not free from our material contaminations also. Greed and other things. Even you see, the Indra was trying to take away the horses because he was afraid of that his position he will lose his position. These are part of the material life, that there is always an apprehension that I may lose my position, I may die. The demigods are also not free from that. And although their body is they in their planet, they can enjoy a lot of things, but again they cannot cannot get out of the cycle, and in this way they cannot go back to the highest goal of human. They cannot achieve the highest goal of human life, that is the supreme abode of the Lord in their present life. Only by devotional service one can go back.
Thank you. In material world, we never seen the people is worshipping that Devarshi Narad, right? We never seen that someone is worshipping, but they do the demigods worshipping.
Yeah.
So why is it like that?
It is, Mataji, it is, if we can put it in this way, that is their ignorance of the real knowledge. Because if they have the proper knowledge, they would have taken shelter of a devotee like Naradji. Because also in our Parampara system, Naradji is one in the Parampara system after Naradji comes. So he is a part of the disciplinic chain. And so we should
worship,
we should place our faith more on Naruchi than any other demigod, because whatever other benedictions is given by other demigods, and we have seen while discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, that they are temporary and are liable to be terminated at the end of their time, or at the end of the lifetime of the individual human being. But the grace of the Naraji, if one gets, he can get the abode of the Lord, as we have seen the case of Dhruva Maharaj, we have even in the case of
Prahlad Maharaj.
And in this way, and even king, not only king, any other person who has got the favor of Narad Muni. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhu, Dhanva Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, just a quick question here. Now, in Sagar Manthan, we know that Krishna has given Amrit to all the demigods. So you just said demigods have to leave the body. So how is that thing? I want to understand.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for putting this question. You see, the Amrita, what is being told, Amrita is not eternal life. Amrita means longer life here only. As you know, sometimes people say that the demigods are also called, they are called eternal. But sorry, they've got Amrit beyond death. In the so, Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm in the car.
No, it's okay. So the thing is that Amrita means here, Amrita means longer life. Because in this material world, in this Kali Yuga, we have a lifespan of almost 100 years. I mean, giving it maximum 100 years. But in any other planets, they have got millions of years. So people think that they consider as Amrita, but actually, absolutely, they are not free from birth and death, because they have a very long life. People consider it as Amrita means Amrita can give that longer life. It doesn't give one free from the cycle of birth and death. In other words, you cannot get rid of your death.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, then we can bring the class to a close. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हिज ग्रेस अभय चरण प्रभु की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. हरे कृष्ण।